You are probably taking magnesium every single day because you heard it is good for better sleep, maintain blood pressure or blood sugar, but you might be seeing absolutely zero benefit from it. You might even feel like you are flushing your money down the drain, and sadly, in many cases, you effectively are. It is not because magnesium doesn't work. It is because most people, especially seniors, are making a few specific mistakes in how they take it, when they take it, or what they take it with. I am Dr. Ben Harris, and today I am going to walk you through the exact protocol I use to make sure this vital mineral actually ends up inside your cells where it belongs, rather than passing right through you. There is a very specific sequence to this. Most people do the right thing, but in the wrong order. They focus entirely on buying the most expensive bottle on the shelf, thinking price equals quality, but they miss the setup entirely. I will show you the strongest timing adjustment later in this video, specifically regarding your sleep, but first, we need to fix the foundation, because if you get the first part wrong, the timing won't even matter. Margaret is a 71-year-old woman who came to see me because she was frustrated. She was doing everything she thought she was supposed to do. She had read online that magnesium was helpful for relaxing the arteries and keeping blood pressure steady, so she went out and bought a standard magnesium supplement. She was very disciplined about it. Every single morning, like clockwork, she would sit down at her kitchen table, have her 2 cups of strong coffee, her 2 slices of whole wheat toast with a little bit of jam, and she would take her magnesium pill right along with her other morning medications. She did this for 3 months straight. When she came into the office, she brought her logbook with her. She looked at me and said she felt exactly the same as she did before she started. Her energy was still a bit jittery, her blood pressure numbers hadn't budged an inch, and she was still dealing with those nagging muscle cramps in her calves at night. She told me she thought magnesium was just a hype and that it didn't work for her body. The problem wasn't her body, and honestly, the problem wasn't even the magnesium itself. The problem was the competition. Margaret was inadvertently creating a traffic jam in her digestive system that blocked the magnesium from ever entering her bloodstream. You need to understand that minerals compete for absorption. Your body has limited pathways to absorb nutrients in the gut. Think of it like a series of small doors in your digestive tract. When you take magnesium at the exact same time as certain other things, those doors get crowded. Margaret was making 2 critical errors in her morning routine. First, she was drinking strong coffee. Coffee is a diuretic, which means it encourages your body to flush fluids out. Magnesium is a water-soluble mineral. When you drink a significant amount of coffee right when you take the supplement, you are speeding up the transit time in your gut and increasing the rate at which your kidneys filter minerals out. Before the magnesium had a chance to settle and be absorbed, her body was already trying to flush it out. Second, she was consuming it with whole wheat toast. Whole grains contain something called phytates. Phytates are compounds that bind to minerals like magnesium, calcium, and zinc. When the phytate binds to the magnesium, it forms a complex that is too large to pass through those little doors in your digestive tract. So instead of going into her blood to help her heart, the magnesium stayed in her gut and was eliminated. For older adults, absorption is already a challenge. As we age, our stomach acid levels tend to drop. We need stomach acid to break down minerals so they can be absorbed. If you take a supplement with coffee, high-fiber foods, or calcium supplements, you are making it incredibly difficult for your body to extract what it needs. Calcium and magnesium, specifically, compete for the same absorption channels. If you take 500 milligrams of calcium and 400 milligrams of magnesium in the same handful of pills, the calcium will often win that fight, and the magnesium gets left behind. We made a simple change for Margaret. We didn't change her dose, we just changed her schedule. I asked her to take her magnesium mid-morning, about 2 hours after her breakfast and coffee, or to move it to the evening meal. Within about 10 days, she noticed the leg cramps were gone. 2 weeks after that, her morning blood pressure readings started to show a more consistent, lower trend. It wasn't a miracle cure, but it was finally doing what it was supposed to do because her body was finally receiving it. This supports steadier readings because the mineral is actually reaching the smooth muscle of the blood vessel walls. Here is exactly how you can correct this competition mistake at home. Look at your current routine. If you are taking your magnesium supplement at the same time as a calcium supplement, stop doing that immediately. Separate them by at least 2 hours. If you take your magnesium with a very high-fiber meal, like a bowl of bran cereal or oatmeal, consider moving the magnesium to a lighter meal. Avoid taking it with your coffee or tea. Wait until you have finished your caffeine for the day. For most seniors, the best window is often with lunch or dinner, provided those meals aren't loaded with dairy products that are high in calcium. You want to give the magnesium a clear path to get into your system. Also, be mindful of zinc. High doses of zinc can also interfere with magnesium absorption. If you take a multivitamin that has everything in it, that is usually fine because the doses are smaller, but if you are taking individual high-dose pills, spacing them out is the key to success. Before we move on to the next common mistake, I want to hear from you. Comment your age and your usual top number range for your blood pressure below. It helps me understand who is watching so I can make these videos more helpful for you. 2. Arthur is a 68-year-old gentleman who takes his health very seriously. He had been noticing some occasional heart palpitations, nothing dangerous. His cardiologist had cleared him, but they were uncomfortable. He also knew his blood pressure was creeping up slightly as he got older. He heard that magnesium was excellent for the heart, so he went to the big box store, found the aisle with the vitamins, and picked up the largest bottle he could find. It had 500 tablets, it was very affordable, and the label clearly said magnesium. Arthur took one tablet every day for a week. By day 4, he was spending a lot of time in the bathroom. He had an upset stomach, loose stools, and lots of gurgling in his abdomen. He assumed this was just a side effect he had to live with to help his heart, but after 2 weeks, he stopped taking them because he couldn't leave the house comfortably. He told me, "Dr. Ben, magnesium just doesn't agree with my stomach." The issue here is that Arthur was taking the wrong last name. When you look at a supplement bottle, you will see the word magnesium, but you must look at the second word. That second word tells you what the magnesium is attached to. In Arthur's case, he had bought magnesium oxide. Magnesium oxide is the most common form found in drugstores because it is cheap to manufacture and the pills can be smaller. However, it is very poorly absorbed by the body. Some studies suggest that you only absorb about 4% of the magnesium from an oxide supplement. The rest of it, the 96% that doesn't get absorbed, stays in your intestines. When magnesium stays in the intestines, it draws water in. This is why it works as a laxative. If you are constipated, magnesium oxide might be useful. But if you are trying to lower your blood pressure, improve your insulin sensitivity for blood sugar control, or stop heart palpitations, magnesium oxide is practically useless. It simply passes through you, causing digestive distress along the way, without ever reaching the cells where the real work happens. For seniors, this is especially critical because we don't want to cause dehydration through loose stools. We want the mineral to get into the blood. I told Arthur to throw that bottle away. It wasn't worth the savings if it wasn't working. We switched him to a form of magnesium that is chelated. Chelation means the magnesium is attached to an amino acid that helps carry it through the gut wall and into the bloodstream. Specifically, for heart health and blood pressure, I recommended magnesium taurate or magnesium glycinate. Magnesium taurate is magnesium attached to taurine. Taurine is an amino acid that has a calming effect on the heart muscle and supports healthy blood pressure. It is very gentle on the stomach. Magnesium glycinate is magnesium attached to glycine. This is one of the most absorbable forms. It is fantastic for relaxation and sleep, and it is very unlikely to cause the digestive upset that Arthur experienced. Once Arthur switched to magnesium glycinate, the stomach issues stopped immediately. He was able to take it consistently. Over the next month, he noticed he felt calmer, and his palpitations became much less frequent. His body was finally getting the raw material it needed to regulate his heartbeat and relax his blood vessels. This is a simple change, but it makes all the difference in the world. Here is what you need to do. Go to your cabinet right now and pick up your magnesium bottle. Turn it around and look at the supplement facts panel. Look for the word oxide. If it says magnesium oxide and you are taking it for heart health or blood sugar, you are likely not getting the results you want. You want to look for words like glycinate, bisglycinate, taurate, malate, or citrate. Magnesium citrate is a middle ground option. It is absorbed better than oxide, but it can still have a laxative effect if you take too much. It is often a good starting point if you tend to be a little constipated, but for most older adults focused on blood pressure and blood sugar stability without the bathroom urgency, glycinate or taurate are the gold standards. They cost a little more, but they actually work. A quick safety note here. Before you start any new supplement, especially if you have been diagnosed with kidney disease, you must speak with your doctor. Your kidneys are responsible for filtering out excess magnesium. If your kidney function is significantly reduced, magnesium levels can build up in the blood, which can be dangerous. Always check your kidney function with a simple blood test before adding high-dose minerals. 3. Evelyn is 74. She has been managing high blood pressure for about 10 years. She was very diligent about her medication, but she wanted to do more naturally. She started taking a high-quality magnesium supplement. She was even taking the right form, magnesium glycinate. But her pressure remained stubbornly high. When I looked at her diet diary, I saw the problem immediately. She was eating a lot of processed foods that were low-fat or healthy according to packaging, but she was hardly eating any fresh vegetables. She told me she found cooking vegetables to be a hassle for just herself. The issue was that Evelyn was treating magnesium as a solo actor, when in reality it is part of a team. Specifically, magnesium has a partner that it must work with to control blood pressure, potassium. Think of your blood vessel cells like a battery. To keep the voltage correct and the vessel relaxed, you need a balance of sodium, potassium, and magnesium. Sodium tends to stiffen the vessel and raise pressure. Potassium and magnesium work together to push sodium out and relax the vessel. Magnesium acts like the key that unlocks the door to the cell, allowing potassium to enter. If you are deficient in magnesium, your cells cannot hold on to potassium. You will lose potassium in your urine, even if you are eating bananas all day long. But the reverse is also true. If you take all the magnesium in the world, but your potassium intake is critically low, the magnesium cannot fully do its job of relaxing the arteries. Evelyn had a mineral imbalance. She was getting plenty of sodium from processed foods, she was supplementing magnesium, but her potassium bucket was empty. Her blood vessels were staying constricted because the team wasn't complete. We didn't give Evelyn a potassium pill. Potassium supplements are generally limited to very low doses over the counter because high doses can be risky if not monitored. Instead, we focused on food. We made a plan for her to add 2 servings of high potassium foods to her day. She started having a small bowl of plain yogurt with breakfast. Yogurt is an excellent source of potassium. For lunch, she started adding half an avocado or a side of cooked spinach. She also started snacking on pumpkin seeds, which are rich in both magnesium and other minerals. The change was slow but steady. It took about 6 weeks. As her potassium levels naturally came up from her diet, her magnesium supplement became more effective. Her top number on her blood pressure cuff dropped by about 8 points. She felt less puffy and bloated because the potassium was helping her kidneys get rid of excess salt. For seniors, this balance is crucial. Our bodies become more sensitive to salt as we age. We need that potassium-magnesium defense system to be strong. Here is another simple habit you can adopt. Do not just rely on a pill to fix your blood pressure or sugar. You must support the pill with your fork. Identify potassium-rich foods that you enjoy and make them a non-negotiable part of your day. You don't need to eat things you hate. Potatoes, sweet potatoes, spinach, broccoli, cantaloupe, oranges, and yogurt are all great sources. Be careful if you have been told to follow a low potassium diet due to advanced kidney issues or if you are on certain potassium-sparing diuretics. In those specific cases, you must follow your doctor's limits. But for the vast majority of older adults with essential hypertension, increasing dietary potassium while taking magnesium is the secret to unlocking better readings. This helps steady your blood sugar as well. Potassium is required for the pancreas to release insulin. If you are low on potassium, your body has to work harder to manage a rise in blood sugar after a meal. By pairing your magnesium with potassium-rich foods, you are supporting both your heart and your metabolism. One more easy change is to look at your salt intake. If you are eating a high-salt diet, you are causing your body to excrete potassium and magnesium at a faster rate. By lowering the salt slightly and increasing the greens, you stop the leak. 4. George is 65 and he is still working part-time. He is a busy man. He likes to get things done and out of the way. His routine was to wake up, shower, eat a quick breakfast, and take all his vitamins and medications right then and there so he wouldn't forget them. George was taking magnesium glycinate, and he was taking it with a good meal, so absorption wasn't the issue. But George had two problems. His morning blood pressure was always the highest of the day, and he had trouble falling asleep at night. He would toss and turn for an hour before drifting off. He told me, "Dr. Ben, I'm taking the magnesium for sleep and pressure, but I'm still staring at the ceiling." The mistake George was making was a timing error. He was fighting his own biology. In the morning, your body naturally produces a surge of cortisol. Cortisol is the wake-up hormone. It increases alertness, it raises blood pressure slightly to get you out of bed, and it gets you ready for the day. This is a normal, healthy rhythm. Magnesium, on the other hand, is a relaxant. It calms the nervous system. It lowers cortisol. It tells the body it is time to rest and digest. By taking a large dose of magnesium first thing in the morning, George was sending a conflicting signal to his body. He was trying to push the brake pedal while his biology was pushing the gas pedal. His body's natural cortisol surge was overpowering the calming effect of the magnesium, so he didn't feel any relaxation. By the time evening came around, 12 or 14 hours later, the magnesium levels in his blood had dropped and he had no support for winding down. This is why his sleep wasn't improving. The magnesium was long gone by the time his head hit the pillow. We shifted George's schedule. I told him to take his magnesium with dinner, or even better, about 1 hour before bed. The first night he did this, he noticed a difference. He felt a heaviness in his limbs, a good kind of heaviness that signaled relaxation. He fell asleep within 20 minutes. But the bigger surprise for George was his blood pressure. By taking the magnesium at night, he was supporting his body's natural dipping process. At night, your blood pressure should drop by about 10 to 20%. This dip is crucial for heart health. It gives your cardiovascular system a rest. Seniors often lose this natural dip, keeping their pressure high all night. By taking magnesium in the evening, George helped restore that nightly dip. This meant his cardiovascular system got a true rest overnight. Consequently, when he woke up the next morning, his starting blood pressure was lower than it had been in years. His morning spikes were tamed because his overnight baseline was better. You can do this at home very easily. If you are currently taking your magnesium in the morning and you feel fine, you don't necessarily have to change. But if you are taking it specifically for blood pressure control or blood sugar management, or if you struggle with sleep, the evening is almost always the superior time. Magnesium plays a role in stabilizing blood sugar overnight as well. The dawn phenomenon, where blood sugar spikes early in the morning, is driven partly by cortisol. By dampening that cortisol response overnight with magnesium, you may find your fasting glucose numbers in the morning are more stable. Try moving your dose to your evening meal. If you find that taking it with food is better for your stomach, dinner is perfect. If your stomach is strong, taking it with a small snack or a glass of water an hour before bed is ideal. This simple shift aligns the supplement with your circadian rhythm. It works with your body, not against it. If you are just joining us, or if you want to make sure you don't miss future tips on managing your health as a senior, please take a second to subscribe to the channel. It helps us continue to bring you this information. Now, we have covered the competition, the form, the partner, and the timing. But there is another massive area where seniors get tripped up, and it has nothing to do with the pill itself, but rather how you are measuring the results. You might think the magnesium isn't working, but your equipment is lying to you. I am going to explain exactly how to fix your measurement technique. And then we are going to talk about a hidden connection between your blood sugar and your blood pressure that most people miss entirely. This next point is critical because if you get this wrong, you might dangerously increase your dosage for no reason. Most older adults can try this safely, but you have to be precise. 5. Clara is 77. She is a lovely woman who worries a lot about her health. She was diagnosed with hypertension and was determined to keep an eye on it. She bought a home blood pressure monitor and measured herself every single day. After starting magnesium, she watched her numbers like a hawk. But week after week, the numbers on the screen were high. Sometimes they were alarmingly high. Clara panicked. She thought, "The magnesium isn't working, I need more." So, without asking anyone, she doubled her dose. Then she tripled it. By the time she called my office, she was feeling dizzy, weak, and her heart rate was unusually slow. She was experiencing signs of magnesium toxicity because she had taken way too much. When I asked her to bring in her monitor and show me how she measures her blood pressure, the problem was obvious within 5 seconds. Clara was rolling up her thick wool sleeve, but not all the way. It was bunching up under her armpit, creating a tourniquet effect. On other days, she was just putting the cuff right over her sweater because she was cold. Furthermore, she was taking her reading the moment she sat down in the chair after walking from the kitchen. She was talking to her husband while the machine was pumping. She was sitting on the edge of the couch with her feet dangling, not touching the floor. Every single one of these things raises your blood pressure reading artificially. Measuring over clothing can add 5 to 50 points to your reading. Having your back unsupported can add 6 to 10 points. Talking can add 10 points. Having a full bladder can add 15 points. Clara's blood pressure was actually perfectly fine. The magnesium was working, but her measurement technique was so flawed that it looked like she was in a crisis. She almost hurt herself by overdosing on supplements to fix a ghost number. We corrected her technique. We waited until the magnesium washed out of her system and she felt normal again. Then we had her measure correctly. Cuff on bare skin, back supported, feet flat on the floor, sitting in silence for 5 minutes before pressing the button. Her numbers were beautiful. She didn't need triple the dose. She just needed the standard dose and a better process. This is a mandatory check for anyone over 60. Your arteries are stiffer than they used to be, which makes accurate measurement harder. You cannot cut corners. Here is the protocol you need to follow to know if your magnesium or any medication is actually working. First, sit in a chair with a hard back, like a dining chair, not a soft sofa. Your feet must be flat on the floor, uncrossed. Crossing your legs raises pressure. Second, the cuff must be on bare skin. No sweaters, no thin shirts, bare arm. The cuff should be at heart level. If your arm is hanging down at your side, the number will be falsely high. Rest your arm on a table so the cuff is level with your chest. Third, and this is the one everyone skips, you must sit there, doing absolutely nothing for 5 minutes before you press the start button. No TV, no phone, no talking. Just breathe. You need to let your body return to a resting state. Finally, take 3 readings, 1 minute apart, and average the last 2. The first reading is almost always a throwaway because the squeeze of the cuff causes a reaction. If you do this, you will get a true number. Only then can you judge if your magnesium protocol is effective. 6. Henry is 70. He was dealing with what we call metabolic syndrome. He had high blood pressure and his blood sugar was in the pre-diabetic range. He was very focused on carbohydrates. He had cut out bread, pasta, and sweets. He was doing a great job with his diet, but his fasting blood sugar remained stubbornly around 115 to 120. He didn't think magnesium had anything to do with his blood sugar. He thought magnesium was just for cramps or sleep. The blind spot here is understanding insulin sensitivity. Insulin is the hormone that knocks on the door of your cells to let sugar in. When you have insulin resistance, the cell ignores the knock. The sugar stays in the blood, causing damage. Magnesium is a critical cofactor for the insulin receptor. Think of magnesium as the hinge on the door. If the hinge is rusty or broken, meaning you are low on magnesium, the door won't open no matter how hard insulin knocks. Henry was low on magnesium. This meant his cells were resisting insulin. Because his sugar remained higher, his blood vessels were becoming stiffer. High sugar acts like jagged glass inside the arteries, causing inflammation and stiffness. This stiffness, in turn, raised his blood pressure. It is a vicious cycle. Low magnesium leads to higher sugar. Higher sugar leads to stiffer vessels. Stiffer vessels lead to higher blood pressure, and high blood pressure damages the kidneys, causing you to lose more magnesium. We put Henry on a consistent dose of magnesium, specifically focusing on the timing we discussed earlier. We also added a small handful of raw pumpkin seeds to his afternoon routine for that natural mineral boost. After 3 months, his fasting glucose dropped below 100 for the first time in years. He hadn't changed his carb intake any further. He simply made his cells more responsive to the insulin he was already producing. As his sugar came down, his blood pressure followed. The bridge between sugar and pressure is strong. You cannot fully fix one without addressing the other. If you are monitoring your glucose, I want you to comment your fasting number and your age below. Seeing the range helps us all understand how common these struggles are. 7. Irene is 82. She is frail and has a very sensitive system. She has difficulty swallowing large pills, which is a very common issue called dysphagia. She also has low stomach acid, so whenever she took a pill, it felt like it sat in her stomach like a rock for hours. She wanted the benefits of magnesium, but the pill fatigue was a real barrier. She just stopped taking it because it was too unpleasant. Irene represents a large group of seniors who simply cannot tolerate oral supplements well, but that doesn't mean you have to go without. We switched Irene to a transdermal approach. Transdermal simply means through the skin. The skin is a massive organ, and it can absorb magnesium. We had Irene start using a magnesium oil spray. Every evening after her shower, she would spray a few pumps onto her legs and rub it in. She also started using Epsom salt soaks for her feet while watching TV. Epsom salt is magnesium sulfate. While the absorption rate is debated, many patients report significant relief from cramps and better sleep using this method, bypassing the digestive system entirely. For Irene, this was a game changer. No more stomach aches, no more swallowing giant pills. But she still got the relaxation benefit. Her legs stopped twitching at night, and she felt calmer. If you have a sensitive stomach or hate pills, you can try this. Look for magnesium oil or magnesium chloride spray. Be warned, it can itch or tingle a little bit the first few times you use it. This is normal and usually goes away as your levels improve. Start with just a few sprays on the bottoms of your feet or on your calves. You can also focus on liquid forms of magnesium, which are easier to swallow and absorb than tablets. 8. Walter is 75. He was taking a diuretic, also known as a water pill, for his blood pressure. He was also taking a PPI, a proton pump inhibitor, for his acid reflux. Walter was eating salads. He was taking a multivitamin. He thought he was covered, but he was suffering from constant fatigue and muscle weakness. The problem was a medication clash. Diuretics work by forcing your kidneys to release sodium and water, but they are not selective. When they push out sodium, they often push out magnesium and potassium right along with it. PPIs reduce stomach acid. But as we discussed with Margaret, you need stomach acid to absorb magnesium from food. So Walter was losing magnesium at a high rate through his urine because of the water pill, and he wasn't absorbing it from his food because of the reflux pill. He was running a massive deficit. In this case, a standard dose wasn't enough. We had to work with his cardiologist to adjust his protocol. We increased his magnesium intake and spaced it as far away from his other meds as possible. We also looked for a potassium-sparing diuretic option. If you are on these medications, you are at a higher risk for deficiency. You cannot assume your diet is enough. You need to be proactive. Always check your readings because changes in food or activity can affect blood sugar if you use insulin or glucose-lowering medication. 9. Robert is 73. He lives in a northern climate where the winters are long and dark. His doctor told him, quite correctly, that his vitamin D levels were low, which is very common for seniors. Robert wanted to protect his bones and his immune system, so he started taking a very high dose of vitamin D3, about 5,000 units a day. He felt good about this choice. He was being proactive. But after about 4 months, his blood pressure, which had been well controlled, started to creep up. His joints started feeling stiffer, and he noticed he was feeling unusually anxious. Robert made the solo vitamin mistake. He didn't realize that by taking high doses of vitamin D without enough magnesium, he was actually creating a calcium problem in his blood vessels. Here's the science simplified. Vitamin D is essential, but it acts like a vacuum cleaner for calcium. It helps your body absorb calcium from your food. However, vitamin D does not tell the calcium where to go once it is in your body. That is the job of magnesium and vitamin K2. Magnesium acts as the traffic controller. It directs calcium into your bones where you want it and keeps it out of your arteries where you definitely do not want it. Because Robert was taking high-dose vitamin D but was borderline deficient in magnesium, his body had tons of calcium floating around in his bloodstream, but no traffic controller to direct it. This free-floating calcium started to deposit in the walls of his blood vessels, making them stiffer. Stiff vessels mean higher pressure. Furthermore, vitamin D is stored in the body in an inactive form. To become active and useful, it must be converted by enzymes in your liver and kidneys. These enzymes require magnesium to work. By taking so much vitamin D, Robert was using up his entire magnesium reserve just to process the vitamin. He was inducing a magnesium deficiency by trying to fix a vitamin D deficiency. This is why he felt anxious and why his pressure rose. His magnesium tank was drained dry by the vitamin D. We adjusted Robert's protocol. We didn't stop the vitamin D, but we lowered the dose slightly and immediately increased his magnesium intake to match it. We also ensured he was taking vitamin K2 to help with calcium transport. Within a month, the stiffness in his joints improved and his blood pressure returned to his normal baseline. He was finally getting the benefit of the vitamin D without the collateral damage to his arteries. This protects your long-term vessel health. Here is what you need to do. If you are taking vitamin D supplements, which many of you should be, you must ensure your magnesium intake is adequate. A good rule of thumb that many functional practitioners use is to ensure you are getting enough magnesium to balance the D. You don't necessarily need a specific ratio, but you must be aware that increasing vitamin D increases your need for magnesium. Do not take megadoses of vitamin D like 10,000 IU for long periods without monitoring your blood levels of both D and minerals. Most older adults can try this safely. If you take your vitamin D in the morning with breakfast, take your magnesium in the evening. This ensures you have a steady supply of both throughout the 24-hour cycle. 10. Linda is 66. She has been a type 2 diabetic for 5 years. She was struggling with what we call dawn phenomenon, waking up with high blood sugar even though she hadn't eaten all night. She also had stubborn high blood pressure that wouldn't respond to standard diet changes. She was taking magnesium, but she told me, "I feel like it just sits in my stomach. I don't feel any different." Linda was missing the taxi driver. You see, getting magnesium into your mouth is step 1. Getting it into your blood is step 2. But getting it inside the cell, inside the actual tissue of your heart and muscles, is step 3, and that is where the magic happens. To cross the cell membrane efficiently, magnesium often needs a helper. That helper is vitamin B6. Vitamin B6 acts like a taxi driver that picks up the magnesium and shuttles it inside the cell. Without enough B6, the magnesium can hang around in the fluid outside the cells, but the cells themselves remain hungry for it. Linda was deficient in B vitamins. This is extremely common in seniors, and it is even more common in people taking metformin for diabetes, as metformin can deplete vitamin B12 and folate, and often correlates with lower B vitamin status generally. Because she lacked the taxi driver, her intracellular magnesium levels were low. This meant her cells couldn't relax properly, keeping blood pressure high, and her insulin receptors couldn't work efficiently, keeping blood sugar high. We added a high-quality B-complex vitamin to her morning routine. We looked specifically for the active form of B6, which is called P5P, pyridoxal 5-phosphate. The change was remarkable. It wasn't immediate, but over 6 weeks, Linda noticed 2 things. First, she was dreaming again. B6 is involved in dream recall, so this was a sign her brain levels were improving. Second, her morning blood sugar numbers started to drift down from the 140s to the 110s. The magnesium was finally getting inside the cell to do its job. This supports better metabolic function across the board. Here's a simple check you can do. Look at your multivitamin or your B complex. Check the form of vitamin B6. If it says pyridoxine HCl, that is the standard form. it is okay, but for seniors, the active form P5P is much better absorbed and utilized. If you are diabetic or pre-diabetic, ask your doctor about your B vitamin status. Correcting a B6 deficiency might be the key to unlocking the power of your magnesium supplement. 11. James is 71. He was very proud of the fact that he had cut all sugar out of his diet to help his blood pressure and weight. He drank 3 or 4 cans of diet soda every day, and he used artificial sweeteners in his coffee and tea. Despite his sugar-free life, his blood pressure was erratic, swinging high and low, and he suffered from constant bloating. He was taking magnesium glycinate faithfully, but his levels on his blood work remained on the low end of normal. James was falling into the fake sweetener trap. We now know that gut health is the foundation of mineral absorption. Your gut lining is where magnesium enters the body. If your gut lining is inflamed, or if your microbiome, the good bacteria, is out of balance, you cannot absorb minerals efficiently. Artificial sweeteners, particularly some of the older ones used in diet sodas, can negatively alter the gut microbiome. They can reduce the population of good bacteria and encourage the growth of bacteria that cause inflammation. James had created a state of gut dysbiosis. His gut bacteria were in chaos. This inflammation in his gut wall meant that the transport channels for magnesium were compromised. He was swallowing the pill, but his gut was too inflamed to let it through efficiently. Furthermore, the acidity of the sodas was causing him to lose calcium and magnesium in his urine. We made a deal with James. We asked him to switch from diet soda to sparkling water with a squeeze of fresh lemon or lime. We asked him to use a small amount of natural stevia or monk fruit if he needed sweetness, but to cut out the chemical sweeteners. It was a hard transition for him because he loved his fizz. But after 3 weeks, his bloating vanished. This was the first sign his gut was healing. A month later, his magnesium levels on his blood test crept up, even though his dose hadn't changed. His gut was finally healed enough to absorb what he was giving it. This is a long-term lever for your health. If you are relying heavily on artificial sweeteners, you might be sabotaging your mineral absorption. Your gut bacteria are your allies in controlling blood pressure. Try to move toward water, herbal teas, or water infused with cucumber and mint. These are hydrating and neutral for your gut. 12. Susan is 69. She lives on a fixed income and tries to save money on heating. In the winter, she keeps her house quite cool, around 62 degrees. She wears sweaters, but she often feels chilled. She noticed a pattern. Every winter, her blood pressure would go up by about 10 or 15 points. Her doctor would increase her meds in November and decrease them in April. She just thought this was normal aging. Susan was dealing with the temperature trigger, and she didn't realize that cold weather drastically increases your body's demand for magnesium. When you are cold, your blood vessels constrict, tighten, to keep heat near your organs. This is a survival mechanism. This constriction raises blood pressure. To maintain this constriction, your muscles and vessel walls have to work harder. This tension burns through magnesium at a faster rate. Susan was using up her magnesium stores just trying to stay warm. Her muscles were constantly in a state of low-grade tension, shivering or bracing against the cold. This depleted her minerals, making her blood pressure even harder to control. We didn't just tell her to turn up the heat, which was expensive. We told her to focus on internal heat and targeted magnesium support. We had her start drinking warm bone broth or warm herbal tea throughout the day to keep her core temperature up. We also increased her magnesium dose slightly during the coldest months. Most importantly, we taught her to keep her feet warm. Cold feet trigger a reflex that raises blood pressure. She started wearing thermal wool socks. The result? Her winter hypertension became much milder. She didn't need the medication increase that year. This is a seasonal adjustment you can make. If you notice your numbers creeping up as the weather cools down, do not ignore it. Check your temperature environment. Are your hands and feet constantly cold? If so, you are likely vasoconstricted. Warm them up. A warm bath in the evening with Epsom salts, magnesium sulfate, serves a double purpose here. It warms the body to dilate the vessels, and it provides magnesium through the skin to replenish what the cold weather stole. Comment below. Do you notice your blood pressure changes with the seasons? Put yes or no in the comments. 13. David is 78. He has trouble swallowing pills, so he loved effervescent tablets, the kind you drop in water and they fizz up. He was taking a dissolvable magnesium supplement, a dissolvable vitamin C, and a dissolvable pain reliever for his arthritis. He came to me because his ankles were swelling and his blood pressure was through the roof, hitting 170/90. He was scared. He thought his heart was failing. David was a victim of hidden sodium. What makes those tablets fizz? It is usually a chemical reaction involving sodium bicarbonate. Many effervescent tablets contain a massive amount of sodium. Some brands have as much sodium in one tablet as a bag of potato chips. David was unknowingly consuming over 1,500 milligrams of extra sodium a day just from his healthy supplements. He was taking magnesium to lower his blood pressure, but the delivery system, the fizzy tablet, was raising it faster than the magnesium could lower it. It was like trying to put out a fire with a hose that was spraying gasoline. We immediately stopped all effervescent products. We switched him to a magnesium powder that he could stir into water, one that was pure magnesium citrate or glycinate without the fizzy sodium reaction. Within 3 days, just 3 days, the swelling in his ankles was gone. His blood pressure dropped by 30 points. It wasn't heart failure, it was salt poisoning from a supplement. You must read the labels. Turn your bottle around. Look at the other ingredients, or the sodium content. If you are using anything that fizzes, check the sodium count. For a senior with hypertension, you want to avoid these hidden sources. Also, be careful with electrolyte powders. Many of them are designed for 20-year-old athletes sweating in the sun, not for 70-year-old adults sitting in air conditioning. They are often loaded with sodium. Look for low sodium or magnesium-focused electrolyte blends. 14. Patricia is 64. She lives in a busy apartment complex near a highway. She told me she was used to the noise and didn't even hear it anymore. However, her blood sugar was always higher in the morning and her blood pressure refused to settle down despite a good diet and magnesium supplements. Patricia was underestimating the noise factor. Even if your conscious mind ignores the noise, your primitive brain does not. Constant background noise, traffic, loud neighbors, a TV left on all day, triggers a low-level fight-or-flight response. This releases cortisol. As we discussed in Part 1, cortisol and magnesium are enemies. When cortisol is high, your body dumps magnesium out through the kidneys. It is a biological safety valve. In a true emergency, you want high blood pressure and high blood sugar to run away from a tiger. Your body dumps magnesium to stiffen the vessels and prime the muscles. Patricia was in a chronic state of mineral dumping because of her environment. She was filling the bucket with supplements, but the noise stress had punched a hole in the bottom of the bucket. We couldn't move the highway, but we could change her environment. We introduced a quiet hour before bed. No TV, no news. We used a white noise machine to mask the traffic sounds while she slept. We also added a specific breathing exercise to her routine, the 4 to 7, 8 breath. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 7, exhale for 8. She did this for 2 minutes before taking her evening magnesium. This signaled her nervous system that she was safe. It turned off the magnesium dumping mechanism. After 2 weeks of better sleep hygiene and the breathing routine, her fasting blood sugar dropped by 10 points. Her magnesium was finally being allowed to stay in her body. This connects the mind and the body. Here's a practical step. Evaluate your noise environment. If you sleep with the TV on, try to stop. The changing volume and light disrupt your deep sleep and keep your cortisol simmering. If you live in a loud area, earplugs or a consistent white noise fan can be a medical intervention for your blood pressure. 15. Thomas is 72. He was a man who believed that, if some is good, more is better. He drank 2 gallons of water a day because he heard hydration was key for blood pressure. He was actually washing away his results. This is the overhydration dilution. Seniors need water, absolutely. Dehydration is dangerous, but overhydration with plain water can flush out your electrolytes. Thomas was urinating every hour. His urine was completely clear. He was stripping his body of sodium, potassium, and magnesium. He felt dizzy, lightheaded, and weak, which he interpreted as high blood pressure symptoms, so he drank more water. When you drink excessive plain water without minerals, you dilute your blood. Your body tries to fix this by excreting water, but it takes minerals with it. We restricted Thomas's fluid intake to a normal, healthy level, about 6 to 8 glasses a day, not 2 gallons. We also added a pinch of sea salt to his morning water and ensured he was eating mineral-rich foods. His dizziness vanished. His blood pressure stabilized because his blood volume and mineral concentration were finally balanced. Drink to thirst. Look at the color of your urine. It should be a pale straw color, not completely clear like water, and not dark yellow. Pale straw means you are in the sweet spot. Conclusion. We have covered a tremendous amount of ground today. We started with the simple things: the type of magnesium you buy and when you take it. We learned that magnesium oxide is largely a waste of money for heart health, and that forms like glycinate and chloride are the gold standard for seniors. We talked about the competition, how coffee, calcium, and fiber can block absorption. We learned that the evening is the best time to take your supplement to support that critical nightly dip in blood pressure and to dampen the dawn phenomenon for blood sugar. We explored the critical partnership with potassium. Remember, magnesium opens the door, but potassium walks through it. You need both. We discussed the importance of accurate measurement, feet flat, back supported, cuff on bare skin, so you aren't treating a ghost number. Then, we went deeper. We looked at the hidden enemies, the vitamin D imbalance, the lack of vitamin B6 taxi drivers, the gut damage from artificial sweeteners, and the sneaky sodium in fizzing tablets. We even looked at your environment, how cold weather and noise pollution can drain your magnesium tank faster than you can fill it. Health at 60 and beyond is not about finding one magic pill. It is about precision. It is about understanding that your body is an interconnected system. Your blood pressure, your blood sugar, your sleep, and your digestion are all tied together by this master mineral, magnesium. You don't have to change everything at once. Pick one thing from this video to start with today. Maybe you just switch your timing to the evening. Maybe you throw away the oxide and buy the glycinate. Maybe you start eating a bowl of yogurt for potassium. Start with one change. Watch your numbers, then add another. I'm Dr. Ben Harris. My goal is to help you understand your body so you can live without fear of your numbers. If you found this deep dive helpful, please share it with a friend or family member who is struggling with their blood pressure or sugar. It might just be the answer they have been looking for. And don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.